Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the 10 at 10 for June 11th of 2024. We got a great lineup here for you today. I'm Matt. That's my brother, Tim. Check us out on MrMaple.com.
Guys, we're that family mail order business. We ship directly to your door, and we do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples. And the trees we're talking about get listed at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time today on Mr. Maple. We're going to talk about 10 of the 20 getting listed. The other 10 are in that email, which you can sign up for on Mr. Maple.
All right, guys, let's get into it with one that's heavily requested to get back. A lot of you guys are waiting on this one. I get a lot of messages all the time on social media saying, when is Ukigumo going to be back in stock in 1 gallons? We're dropping a huge set of Acer palmatum Ukigumo for you today.
Now, Ukigumo is one of those trees that really puts on some white variegation. These 1 gallons, you can even see some of the white variegation from the spring in our cold frames. We've got a whole video on Ukigumo and how to get the whitest out of your Ukigumo in the landscape and garden. Check that video out. It's the highlight on Acer palmatum Ukigumo.
Yeah, giving this one some slow leaf out times, low nitrogen would work best, guys. Heavily variegated plants, though. One of my favorite things about Ukigumo is the fall color. This one gets to a bold orange in the fall very consistently. It's not always going to be white. We always let people know that up front. It will surprise you some years where it leaves out a bold white, like the background behind me in the greenhouse. It can be the whitest thing in the landscape. Absolutely astonishing plant. Now, you're going to get better variegation on that, slowly leafing that tree out. So you want to put it in a little bit of a shade canopy. I have one in a high oak canopy and it looks immaculate fairly consistently. But the one thing that's always there is that fall color. This one's going to be typically over 1.5 feet of growth a year to a foot, kind of that upper middle scale. We list this one right around 12 to 14 foot, even in 10 years.
And if fall colors is your thing, we did a whole podcast on our top 100 Japanese maples for fall color. And Ukigumo, it fell pretty high on that list. So you can check that out as well. Guys, next up, we've got Acer palmatum Vercades Jacquespatus.
Another fan favorite coming back to the table today. You've heard us tell the story. Tim and I bought one, maybe 4-inch one, maybe one this size from Dave back in the day. This is one of his introductions, named for his daughter Jacqueline. Vercades Jacquespatus is one of my favorite spring apricots. This thing is a sessilifolium, so it has that Hagoromo style leaf. But guys, this one can be pink, green, yellow, orange, tons of crazy colors all at the same time, especially in that spring garden.
Yeah, these just came out of a greenhouse, so they're soaking wet. The water was on in the greenhouse. But this is an angel feather Japanese maple that just gives a unique feel out there in the garden. It's named after Dave Vercade's daughter, Jacqueline. And it's just like a cool homage to the Vercades family that's introduced so many cool plants, even Crimson Queen. I mean, they've introduced so many cool maples and cool conifers out in the nursery trade. This is one of my favorite trees just for that peach apricot kind of color in the springtime. 6 to 8 foot in 10 years. Really nice, upright, kind of shrub-like habit. It really makes a statement out there in the garden.
One of my favorite pairings for Vercades Jacquespatus is Hanezu Hagoromo. It's an orange Hagoromo. You get a similar leaf shape, but a different color for it. Similar textures to it as well. You can collect, it's not really a series, but you can collect all those sessilifolium style leaves. There's not that many of them. It's a fun, unique way to get into Japanese maples. A lot of people are going to look at this leaf and be very puzzled by what it is, but they're going to understand what it is when it gets that great spring color and that great fall color. This one's also really nice in the summer when you get a lot of shrimp pink new growth going on over top of that darker green.
Guys, next up, Acer japonicum Oregon fern.
Great plant, y'all. This one is a weeping lace leaf style Acer japonicum. Great fall colors. I love this one in the fall. It goes full Hulkamania. You typically get crazy yellows and reds all throughout this tree, so it looks just wild in the fall. This one's a great candidate for the container garden. I do recommend some late day shade on this one in your heavier, hotter zones, but it's going to work zones 5 through 9 and just make more of a low doming of presence to it.
So this is actually a selection by J.D. Vertrees, the guy who wrote the book on Japanese maples himself. And for a nice mounding, weeping Acer japonicum, this is an extraordinary tree for the landscape and garden. It's named by the guy who wrote the book on Japanese maples, so obviously it's going to be a great tree. I love what this tree does. It just adds a unique texture out in the landscape. The larger leaves that are lace leaf give you a different texture in the garden than your typical Acer palmatum dissectum. The japonicums that are lace leaf just give this really frilly, this harder texture, but still with a beautiful cascading habit.
Typically in 10 years, this one's about 4 feet tall by about 5 to 6 feet wide. Think about everything you love about dancing peacock and then multiply that by a lace leaf style. So you're gonna get that more mounding habit to it and that fall color. Still getting those great red tassels in the spring, so you get a big flower on this one in the spring, which I find that bees absolutely love in our area. So it's a great plant for the environment as well, but I think you're going to love Acer japonicums. Oregon fern shows out, y'all. Also, it's a great one for the container garden. All right, y'all, another one a lot of people have been waiting to come back to Mr. Maple. I love this plant. This is an absolutely outstanding fall yellow. A lot of people have been waiting on it to return. This is a Dick Wolf introduction. We've talked about a good bit. We're bringing back Green Star.
Yeah, his nursery was Red Maple Nursery, so people don't think about him introducing a green Japanese maple. He's famous for Emperor One, Moonfire, Red Baron. I mean, he's introduced a lot of red Japanese maples, but Green Star is one of the best of those green upright Japanese maples. It gives you almost that Osakazuki-like feel, but instead of going to orange in the fall, that orange red that Osakazuki is famous for, that bright red, this one goes to a really nice shade of yellow.
I love to pair this one. I think it's more consistent than Ichigyoji. I love pairing this one with Osakazuki and Hogyoku because they have similar style leaves, but great fall color. I do find this one to be a little smaller than Osakazuki, typically at around 8 to 10 foot in 10 years, make it a little smaller stature. I actually have one of these planted at my in-laws' house. We actually planted this tree about 10 years ago when me and Amy first started dating, and it's kind of fun to compare the tree each year to some of my nieces who were there when we planted it. They'll go out and take a picture of this tree every year. And it is absolutely amazing for a tree that's not going to kind of dwarf the house. It's a smaller overall tree. Think of this one as a great comparison to something like Fireglow, but for a small green. And that fall color is just epic, guys. It looks great next to Fireglow as well, but it's cold tolerant, heat tolerant. That big Amoenum style leaf gives it a little bit of an edge in some of the colder zone 5s as well during a polar vortex. I think you're going to love Green Star. This one, I first saw this one at NJ Acer, Ed Shin's place, and I was just blown away by the tree. You know, a lot of the greens don't get the love sometimes that a lot of the reds get from the novelist. I would say collectors, they get into the greens as well. A lot of people's first Japanese maples is a red weeping tree or, you know, red upright. Green Star brings it. It's simple, but it's elegant.
Now, one thing this tree does is it puts on a dramatic display even in the springtime. When it's first leafing out, the leaves cut down almost like a hand. So it has that same similar approach that Sumagaki does, but with a pure green leaf that is just outstanding. Grabs your attention as it unfurls, and for a green upright Japanese maple, this one rocks it.
One of the very best fall colors you'll find around. Grab your Green Star if you love yellow.
Who would love yellow around here?
I don't know, there's some guy that does these goofy dances. Now, if you also love yellow, check out Acer palmatum Kristen Star, y'all.
From one star to another, Kristen Star is a star in the garden, found by Bill Taylor in Spartanburg, South Carolina, as a chance seedling that he continued to grow and evaluate. This thing brings it in the early spring with some pink oranges that are almost unreal.
Awesome plant, y'all. Really interesting. I think this will make a great tree for bonsai because of that density to it. Smaller overall foliage makes it look great in the container. There's so many customers who have got this one from us and made this one popular on social media. I know Jay Yorch had one of these early on from us, and when he shares pictures of this one, everybody go crazy. I know Mindy Money has one as well. We're going to do a top 5 of her at some point. She said Kristen Star would have to be in her top 5. It's been a fan favorite of long-term shoppers at Mr. Maple, and we're working to get this one back in stock always because you guys buy it out as quickly as we can get it back online. That spring color is unparamounted. I like to think about it as a more durable Akane. We've offered Akane a few times. Tends to be a little bit more of a wimp. Kristen Star, growing in full sun in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Now, if you want the best color on this one, give it a little late day shade in your hotter zones, but it's been impeccable for its durability.
The colors on this are out of this world, and it's one of these plants that just continues to shine, and the more you see this tree, the more you're going to fall in love with it because the color changes this thing has. The new growth flushes during the summer, returns to some of that yellow. The shrub-like habit makes it easy to grow in many people's garden. I mean, this is a tree you're going to have.
Grab you a Kristen Star today. They won't last long. Those two do tend to sell out rather quickly.
Guys, next up, we got Acer Lavagatum Hong Long.
Oh, I love this plant. We recently did a highlight video on some big specimens of these at the Buckholz Nursery. Go watch that video. We talk a lot about this one. I know Jim Putnam even has a highlight on this tree because he loves it as well. Introduction by the JCRA. So the JC Ralston Arboretum. Mark Wethen actually wild collected this tree. Now, Tim and I actually helped introduce this one, not by finding it. Mark did all the work. He found the tree. He got it back to America. He got it in the ground. The only thing we did is we said, Mark, this thing is crazy, and if you don't name it, we're going to name it after you. So Mark put the name Hong Long after it. If it not Matt and Tim would introduce this as Mark Wethington because we absolutely love the tree. So we put a little applied pressure on him to come up with something interesting. Guys, I love that this one has a translucent-like older foliage. I mentioned it in that breakdown. Reminds me a lot of pewter. If you watch our channel a lot, you'll see us offer Stority of pewter, which has some blue-green older growth. This will leaf out an exquisite red, but you also get this weirder translucent shade to it, which is nothing. It looks like nothing else in the whole Acer world.
I mean, it's crazy that this tree was wild collected by Mark Wethington, and it has this crazy color on it that you don't find on typically Acer Lavagatum. Lavagatum is one of those plants that plant explorers have loved because it grows at such high elevations. That means it can grow in our climate here and actually perform well. One thing we've learned is that you want to give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun to really let this tree thrive and do well. It typically grows an understory tree naturally, and we'd recommend growing this with some protection from the hot afternoon sun so that you'd really get the best growth out of this tree, but give it some morning sun so you get some of this red color this tree is famous for. The name Hong Long translates as red dragon, and that applies to the red new growth foliage, but that bark is one of the most purple red selections of any maple that I know of having such purple red bark.
Guys, these are grafted to Acer palmatum, so they're in that same family and closely related. We put them on Japanese maple rootstock, but these can be done as rooted cuttings as well. Great purple bark to this one. Now, we find that here in zone 6B, these are deciduous. So these can be semi-deciduous depending on your zone, which doesn't bother them at all. They leaf back out every year with great looking flushes of red. If you are in a hotter zone, sometimes they'll actually hold that foliage through the winter. I've noticed even in zone 8B at Buckholt's nursery in the greenhouse, they tend to hold foliage more than they do here, which is interesting, but you get a whole different experience with that kind of translucent growth going on. Eventually they'll drop all the foliage and replenish it, much like an evergreen magnolia. Beautiful plants to be growing, guys. I love what this one brings, and it makes such a weird pairing with all the other Japanese maples in the garden.
Next up, guys, we've got Acer palmatum Hoofman A.
Guys, you love variegation, and we keep bringing it. It ain't just the Ghost series. There's a ton of other great reticulated ghost-like maples. In Europe, they call them the reticulatum grouping. And Hoofman A is one from Holland that absolutely brings it with that interesting swirl and variegation.
Yeah, you basically get some creamy white colors with green veins on the foliage. It is just outstanding. It's got a little bit of serrations on the new growth. The older growth gets a little more rounded. It's typically going to be in that 6 to 8 foot in 10 years with this really nice upright and semi-pendulous habit.
I've got one of these in a high oak canopy as well, and I love the colors I'm getting there. They can handle a little bit of sun. If you're getting late day shade, you're going to hold that variegation longer into the season. Too much heavy shade can green them up a little bit. I've got one in a high oak canopy, and guys, it kind of glows. It's got a whole vibe to it. It's got that yellow-green going on, and it gets also a nice yellow to orange fall color as well. Great mid-sized tree. Awesome pairing with something like a Magi Shiguri.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that pairing. That's pretty spectacular. Something like Strawberry Spring or Celebration would contrast real well with this as well. For reticulation, give these trees some light shade, and you're really going to hold the best colors all throughout the season.
Now, a little bit shorter like Tim was mentioning, but also more multi-stemmed. Another fun pairing would be something like Black Hole for its structure. This one works great for the container garden. A little bit rare. You don't see Hoofman A out there as much, but we're bringing it back to Mr. Maple. All right, y'all, let's bring back another fan favorite. We've got Acer palmatum Kawahara Rose.
Guys, many of these trees will sell out fast today, so make sure you check out really quickly. Our website doesn't hold it for you until you complete that checkout process. Kawahara Rose is one of those ones that's going to sell out quickly. It's a selection by our good friend Guy Malot of France, and Guy has introduced some amazing plants. This plant, it just gives you some amazing rose colors in the early spring.
Man, at some point, I've got to get over with Talon Buckholtz to visit him with Talon. Him and Talon are good friends. They give each other notes on their plants. He's next level in France for sure. I love Kawahara Rose, guys. This one, I think the most interesting stage about it is in summer. That's when it's kind of greener, but you get these rose-like tippings all over it, pink and red. It really looks great. Now, in the spring, the whole tree is like a shrimp pink. So you can get this crazy, interesting color that would pair amazing with Kristen Star.
Kawahara Rose has a really nice upright form. So a very different structure than Kristen Star we talked about earlier, but amazing spring color on this tree. Tree that keeps bringing it during the summer months. It's a tree that'll definitely show out.
I've been so impressed with the spring color. The overall tree is a great plant, though. Good one for the container garden. I think this one would probably be a fun one that's understated for bonsai. A lot of people are after the DeSojo styles. It kind of fits that DeSojo category of intense spring color, smaller leaves, as well as interesting new growth in the summer. So I think it would also be another one that could fit into that bonsai category, give you something new to play with. Grab you a Kawahara rose today.
Next up, guys, we got one that kind of makes me think about that Billie Jean song. It's Acer palmatum Bernardine.
Bernardine is not my lover. All right, guys, this one is a dark red broom that gives you a more columnar overall habit. This one gets some of the darkest shades to it. I've been really impressed with its durability in the sun. It's been excellent for me here in the South. Bernardine is an interesting introduction. It's another bud sport. So kind of like Twombly's Red Sentinel, instead of being a short, dense broom, this one got very columnar.
And the reason why that's so useful is because it doesn't take up much space in the garden. So if you're wanting to plant something in the sun that's not going to give a lot of shade, excellent tree to use. If you have a small space in the corner of your house and you want something tall and narrow, easy tree to use. If you just want to add vertical interest in the garden, this is an awesome tree to put out there that'll give you a flagpole of color in your garden. So this narrow shape makes it easy to use, fun to use. Guys, gives you good color in the garden.
This is going to work zones 5 through 9. Got more of a cherry red fall color. I think you're going to love this one overall. Durability is off the charts, guys. I've been really impressed with it for the South. But again, that darker overall shade really brings something different to the landscape. Typically, a 10-foot tall tree of this is going to be about 3 to 4 feet wide. So not a wide growth there. A lot of the branching is going to aim up. Growing this one in sun and taking out any extreme low branch and is going to improve that overall columnar shape for this one. But great whether you put it in the container for a columnar one or in the ground. I think you're going to love what this one brings to the table. All right, y'all, you keep asking for bigger sizes, and guess what's back? We've got Acer Shirasalem, Autumn Moon, and some shippable 10 gallons, guys. This tree is on the ground in the pot right now. It's standing taller than my head in the container. This one's going to give you an excellent size 10-gallon Autumn Moon to start out with. Don't miss out on these. They're going to go quick. It's a great size.
Another introduction by JD Veritrees. I like to take this tree and put it in an actual container around the yard, find its happy spot, and then end up planting it in the ground. Typically, morning sun with protection from the hot afternoon sun will give you the best colors and really allow this tree to get the most vigor on the growth.
Love this fall color. It's a bold orange, y'all. Normally, these are only available at our open houses. We've designed a box that can actually ship these 10 gallons directly to your door. We've been shipping to California, all over with great success. So rest assured you can get one of these in a nice size. People are always asking for it. We're making it happen here on Mr. Maple, guys. I hope you'll check out with an Acer Shirasalem Autumn Moon today.
Guys, that was 10 of our 20 trees. Get ready at 10 a.m. All these trees are about to go live.
You're going to need to sign up for our email to find out about the other 10 trees because there's actually 20 listed today. So there's a top secret other 10 in your email waiting on you to find out about. Make sure to sign up for that. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.